Barron Trump, now 20 years old, has largely stayed out of the public eye compared to other family members. Born in 2006, he has occasionally appeared at family events and political rallies, but has not held public office or engaged in high-profile business dealings. The Trump family has historically been protective of his privacy, with President Trump previously stating that Barron should be allowed to live a normal life, away from media scrutiny. Legal experts note that any involvement in a foreign court case, even tangential, could set precedents for how emergency communications are subpoenaed. Internationally, the Trump family's legal team issued a swift response through a spokesperson. "This is a private matter involving a young adult, and any attempt to drag Barron into unrelated legal proceedings is inappropriate, potentially violative of privacy laws. We are exploring all options to protect his rights." Sources close to the family indicate they were not directly notified in advance of the transcripts used in court and are consulting us and UK counsel on potential challenges under data protection regulations like GDPR or US privacy statutes. UK legal observers have pointed out that emergency call transcripts are routinely used in court to corroborate witness statements, but the inclusion of a high-profile name like Barron Trump raises unique concerns. Courts have broad discretion to admit relevant evidence, but privacy considerations are paramount when minors or young adults are involved, said Prof. Elena Hargreaves of King's College, London School of Law. The case has prompted calls for clearer guidelines on cross-border data sharing in criminal investigations involving public figures. The assault case itself involves allegations of physical violence stemming from online disputes. The defendant reportedly claimed self-defense, arguing that the altercation was triggered by provocative messages received after attempting to contact Barron Trump regarding a perceived grievance, details of which remain sealed. Prosecutors argue the violence was unprovoked and premeditated. The trial is expected to continue for several more days, with closing arguments scheduled for next week. Broader implications extend to the Trump family's ongoing legal battles and public perception. With President Trump in his second term, any story involving his children tends to polarize audiences. Conservative commentators have framed the incident as an example of weaponized legal systems and privacy invasions, while progressive voices question why such a transcript would surface in a foreign court and whether it indicates deeper security concerns around the Trump family. Privacy advocates have seized on the case to renew calls for stronger protections for emergency communications. Organizations like the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, noted that emergency call records are sensitive and should require high thresholds for disclosure, especially when involving non-parties like Barron Trump. As the UK court continues its proceedings, the full context of the transcript and its relevance to the assault charge will become clearer. For now, the episode highlights the challenges of balancing justice, privacy, and the global reach of information in the digital age, particularly when high-profile names. 8. Zelensky slams Europe at Davos. Where is the real support? A stark warning amid fragile peace talks in a speech that cut through the polished optimism of the 2020s. 6 World Economic Forum. In Davos, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered a pointed and emotional critique of Europe's waning commitment to Ukraine. Speaking on January 22, 2026, Zelensky asked the assembled global leaders a question that hung heavily over the Alpine resort. Where is the real support? His words came at a critical juncture, just hours after Russia launched one of its largest air assaults of the year on Ukrainian cities, and as trilateral peace talks involving the US, Russia, and Ukraine continued in Abu Dhabi. Zelensky's appearance at Davos marked his first in-person address to the forum since the full-scale invasion began in 2022. The Ukrainian leader, dressed in his signature olive-green military-style attire, spoke to a packed hall of business executives, heads of state, and international policymakers. His message was clear. While diplomatic efforts to end the war were underway, Ukraine could not afford complacency or reduced support from its European partners. We are not asking for charity, Zelensky said, his voice steady but edged with frustration. We are asking for the tools to defend our people and our future. Europe has the capacity, economic, military, and moral, to stand firmly with us. But the question remains, where is that real support when it matters most? He pointed to delays in promised weapon deliveries, hesitancy over long-range missiles, and what he described as political fatigue in several European capitals, as contributing to a dangerous slowdown in aid. The timing of Zelensky's remarks amplified their impact. Just overnight, Russian forces had launched a massive barrage of drones and missiles on Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, and other cities, killing civilians and damaging critical infrastructure. The strikes left parts of Ukraine without power in sub-zero temperatures, underscoring the urgency of continued military assistance. Zelensky tied the attack directly to the peace talks, accusing Russia of using violence to pressure Ukraine into unfavorable concessions. While we sit at the table in Abu Dhabi, bombs fall on our homes, he said. This is not diplomacy, this is terror, and it will not force Ukraine to surrender our sovereignty or our people. Zelensky's speech highlighted specific grievances with European nations. He noted that, while the US has continued to provide substantial military aid, some European countries have fallen short of their commitments. Germany, once a major donor, has faced criticism for slow delivery of Leopard tanks and air defense systems. France and the UK have pledged support, but have been cautious about supplying long-range weapons capable of striking deep into Russian territory. Zelensky called on Europe to match words with action, and warned that any retreat in solidarity would embolden Russia. The address also touched on the broader implications for European security. If Ukraine falls, the next target will be closer to your borders, Zelensky cautioned. This is not just our war. It is Europe's war. The price of hesitation today will be paid in blood. The speech drew mixed reactions in the hall. Some European leaders appeared visibly uncomfortable, while others applauded the Ukrainian president's candor. Behind closed doors, however, tensions were evident. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, in a separate session, emphasized Europe's ongoing support, but stressed the need for sustainable aid packages. French President Emmanuel Macron reiterated his country's commitment to Ukraine, but reiterated the importance of avoiding escalation that could lead to direct NATO-Russia confrontation. Zelensky's appearance at Davos came amid cautious optimism about the Abu Dhabi talks, the first formal discussions involving high-level representatives from Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. While no major breakthroughs were announced, sources described the atmosphere as productive with progress on humanitarian issues and prisoner exchanges. However, the Russian airstrikes, immediately after the talks, raised doubts about Moscow's sincerity. In his speech, Zelensky urged the international community not to reward aggression with concessions. He reiterated Ukraine's position that any peace agreement must include the full withdrawal of Russian forces, the restoration of territorial integrity, and security guarantees to prevent future invasions. The speech also highlighted Ukraine's domestic resilience. Zelensky spoke of the courage of ordinary Ukrainians, from frontline soldiers to civilians, rebuilding shattered communities. He paid tribute to the thousands who have lost their lives, and called for continued global solidarity. As the war enters its fifth year, Zelensky's words served as both a plea and a warning. With winter deepening, and Russian forces regrouping, Ukraine faces mounting challenges. The question he posed, where is the real support, echoes across Europe and beyond, challenging leaders to reaffirm their commitment or risk the unraveling of the rules-based international order. 9. Navy apologizes to troops discharged over Biden-era vaccine mandate, a step toward reconciliation, amid lingering resentment in a move signaling a significant shift in military policy under the second Trump administration. The U.S. Navy has issued formal apologies to thousands of service members who were discharged during the Biden era for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. The apologies, announced on January 23, 2026, come as part of a broader effort to address the fallout from the controversial 2021 policy, which required all active duty personnel to be vaccinated against the virus. Navy Secretary Carlos Del Toro described the initiative as a necessary acknowledgement of mandate's impact on careers and lives, following policy reversals that began in late 2020. 5. The Biden administration's vaccine mandate, implemented in August 2021, was intended to curb the spread of COVID-19 within the armed forces and ensure operational readiness. At the time, the Pentagon argued that vaccination was essential for troop health and mission effectiveness, especially amid global deployments. However, the policy faced immediate backlash from service members citing religious, medical, or personal objections. By the mandate's rescission in January 2020, 3. Prompted by congressional pressure and declining COVID threats, over 8,000 military personnel across all branches had been discharged for non-compliance. In the Navy alone, approximately 3,500 sailors were let go, many with honorable discharges, but stripped of benefits like GI Bill eligibility or retirement pension. Regionally, the strikes have strained relations with Latin American nations. Venezuela's interim government has protested the actions, claiming they violate sovereignty and international law. Colombia, a key U.S. ally in counter-narcotics, has expressed mixed views, supporting the goal, but urging caution to avoid collateral damage. The operation's expansion into Venezuelan waters post Maduro has been particularly contentious, with earlier strikes on loading facilities drawing UN scrutiny. Economically, the impacts are multifaceted. Disrupted shipments could temporarily reduce supply, potentially increasing street prices and deterring casual use. However, experts like van der Brown warn that cartels' adaptability means long-term effects may be limited without addressing demand. Side issues in the U.S. The opioid crisis, exacerbated by fentanyl, often smuggled alongside cocaine, remains a domestic priority, with strikes seen as one tool in a broader strategy. Congressional oversight is intensifying. Bipartisan committees have requested detailed briefings on the operation's effectiveness, costs, and compliance with international norms. With a Republican-controlled Congress, support for the campaign is strong, but Democrats have voiced concerns over escalation risks and humanitarian implications. As Operation Southern Spear presses on, the 35th strike serves as a reminder of the administration's aggressive stance. Whether this approach will dismantle cartels or merely displace them remains to be seen. In communities like Forest Hills, Michigan, where drug addiction affects families daily, such actions offer hope, but also prompt reflection on the human cost of the war on drugs. 7. Barron Trump emergency call transcript, read in UK assault case. Privacy concerns and international legal implications emerge in a rare international legal development involving the Trump family. A transcript of an emergency call reportedly placed by or involving Barron Trump was read aloud in a UK court on January 23, 2020. 6. During proceedings related to an assault case, the revelation has sparked intense media attention, privacy debates, and questions about how personal communications from high-profile individuals are handled across borders. Details remain limited due to ongoing proceedings and privacy protections, but the mention of Barron Trump, the youngest son of President Donald Trump, has drawn global scrutiny to what was otherwise a local criminal matter in the United Kingdom. The case centers on an assault incident that occurred in London in late 2020. 5. Where a defendant is accused of physically attacking an individual during a dispute tied to online harassment or doxing attempts. Court documents indicate that the victim or a witness made an emergency call seeking help, and during the investigation, authorities obtained records of subsequent communications, including a call that referenced Barron Trump. The transcript was introduced as evidence to establish timeline, motive, or context for the altercation, which allegedly stemmed from online interactions involving the Trump family name. According to court records accessed by reporters, the emergency call transcript describes a distressed caller reporting a physical confrontation. The caller mentions contacting or attempting to contact Barron Trump directly, or through associates, claiming it was part of a larger pattern of threats or intimidation. The exact wording has not been publicly released in full, due to gag orders and privacy laws, but excerpts read in court reportedly include phrases such as "I need help," "Hes," threatening me after I reached out to Barron, and references to messages or calls exchanged in the lead up to the assault. The judge allowed the transcript to be read aloud during the evidentiary phase to provide context for the defendant's state of mind, but ordered that identifying details about Barron Trump be minimized in public reports. U.S. conducts 35th strike on alleged drug boat in ongoing operation. First action since Maduro's capture raises questions on escalation in a significant development in the ongoing U.S. campaign against international drug trafficking. The United States military carried out its 35th strike on a suspected drug smuggling vessel in the Eastern Pacific Ocean on January 23, 2026. This marks the first such action since the high-profile capture of former Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro in December 2020. 5. Underscoring the administration's unwavering commitment to disrupting narcotics networks. Despite recent geopolitical shifts, the strike, part of Operation Southern Spear, resulted in the deaths of 2 individuals and left 1 survivor. According to US Southern Command's Southcom officials, the operation targeted a vessel believed to be transporting illicit drugs, based on intelligence confirming its involvement in trafficking activities. Southcom reported that the strike was a lethal kinetic action, emphasizing its role in combating the flow of narcotics that fuel addiction and violence in American communities. These operations are essential to national security and public health, stated a Southcom spokesperson in a press release. Following the incident, the boat was destroyed, and efforts were made to locate and assist any survivors, with 1 individual recovered from the scene. Operation Southern Spear, initiated on September 2, 2020, 5, under the Trump administration, represents a militarized approach to counter-narcotics efforts. Unlike traditional interdictions, led by the U.S. Coast Guard, which focus on seizures and arrests, this campaign employs direct strikes to neutralize threats at sea. Since its launch, the operation has conducted 35 strikes, intercepting or destroying substantial quantities of drugs, primarily cocaine originating from South America. The campaign's pace has been relentless, with multiple strikes reported in late December 2020, 5, including a double strike over 2 days that targeted 5 vessels. The timing of this latest strike is particularly noteworthy, coming shortly after Maduro's extradition to the U.S. on charges of leading the Cartel of the Suns, a network allegedly involving Venezuelan military officials in drug smuggling. Maduro's capture was hailed as a major victory, but critics argue it has not deterred trafficking operations. Instead, cartels may have adapted, using more sophisticated methods, like semi-submersibles, or dispersed convoys, to evade detection. A recent triple-boat convoy incident on January 1, 2020, 6, illustrated this evolution, where U.S. forces struck multiple vessels in a coordinated smuggling attempt. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defended the operation in a briefing, stating, "We're hitting them hard and fast. This isn't about politics, it's about protecting American lives from the poison these cartels peddle." Hegseth highlighted the integration of advanced technologies, including drones and AI analytics, to identify and engage targets precisely. However, the use of lethal force has sparked controversy, with human rights groups questioning the rules of engagement and potential for civilian casualties. Human Rights Watch and other organizations have documented concerns over the strikes, noting that, as of January 20, 2020, at least 115 people have been killed across 35 actions, with only 2 known survivors and 8 missing. These operations often lack transparency and accountability, said Josfe Miguel Vivanco of HRW. Reports suggest some vessels may be misidentified, leading to unnecessary loss of life. The January 23 strike, which killed 2 and left 1 survivor, has renewed calls for independent investigations into targeting protocol. The trend has also boosted Venezuela's music industry, long stifled under Maduro's regime. Emerging artists, like DJ Rico and singer Ana Torres, have released original tracks building on the rhythm, blending Afro-Venezuelan percussion with electronic beats. Torres' single Ritmo de Libertad debuted at #1 on local charts and gained traction on Spotify's global playlists. International celebrities, including Shakira and Bad Bunny, have shared their own versions, amplifying the reach. This is Venezuela's voice rising again, Shakira posted on Instagram, alongside a clip of her dancing with Venezuelan refugees in Colombia. Economically, the viral wave is injecting vitality into a recovering nation. Tourism officials report increased interest in dance tours to Caracas and Maracaibo, where visitors can learn the moves in historic sites. Merchandise like Libertad Beat t-shirts and playlists are selling briskly online, providing income for creators. The interim government, led by opposition figures, has even embraced the trend, incorporating it into public events to promote national unity. Yet, challenges remain. Not all Venezuelans are ready to dance away the past. Some former Chavistas view the remixes as mocking their movement, leading to online clashes. Human rights groups remind that while cultural renewal is welcome, justice for Maduro-era abuses, such as political imprisonments and economic mismanagement, must not be overshadowed. Dance is powerful, But it's not enough without accountability, says Amnesty International's Venezuela researcher. As the Libertad beat spreads, it embodies Venezuela's resilient spirit. From the streets of Caracas to global screens, this rhythm is a testament to a nation's desire to move forward, one step at a time. With millions tuning in, the dance revolution may just be the soundtrack to Venezuela's new chapter. Juba Global News Network will continue to track cultural trends in post-Maduro Venezuela, exploring how art and music shape recovery. In a world watching, this viral phenomenon proves that even in the darkest times, rhythm can restore. 10. Viral new rhythm takes over Venezuela after Maduro era fade. The dance revolution, as political shifts continue in Venezuela post-Maduro, a new viral dance and music rhythm has exploded online, symbolizing hope and cultural renewal. Videos are racking up millions of views worldwide, transforming what was once a tool of political propaganda into a celebration of freedom and unity. Dubbed the Libertad beat, or simply, Maduro's Last Dance remix. This infectious rhythm has swept through social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, marking a cultural renaissance in a nation emerging from decades of authoritarian rule. The origins of this viral phenomenon trace back to Nicolás Maduro's own penchant for using music and dance as rallying cries during his presidency. For years, Maduro incorporated salsa, merengue, and hip-hop elements into his public appearances, often dancing on stage to remixes of his speeches to energize supporters. Phrases like "No war, yes peace" were turned into catchy tunes, broadcast on state media to project an image of joy amid economic hardship and international isolation. But with Maduro's ouster in late 2025, following widespread protests, international pressure, and his eventual extradition to the US on drug trafficking charges, the narrative flipped. In the weeks following Maduro's removal, Venezuelan youth and artists began repurposing these same remixes. What started as satirical parodies quickly evolved into a full-fledged dance challenge. The Libertad beat features upbeat reggaeton rhythms layered over Maduro's infamous dance clips, but with new lyrics emphasizing themes of liberation, democracy, and rebuilding. "No more chains, yes to change," goes one popular refrain, a direct twist on Maduro's slogans. Dancers in videos perform energetic moves, combining traditional Venezuelan joropo steps with modern hip-hop flair, often in public squares, once used for regime rallies. The explosion in popularity was rapid. The first major video posted by Caracas-based influencer Maria Lopez on TikTok in early January 2020s. Showed a group flash mob in Plaza Bolívar, dancing to a remix that sampled Maduro's awkward shimmy, while overlaying images of recent protests. It amassed over 5 million views in 48 hours, spawning thousands of user-generated copies. By mid-January, the hashtag number #Maduro'sLastDance had surpassed 100 million views globally, with participants from Miami's Venezuelan diaspora to European cities joining in solidarity. This dance revolution is more than mere entertainment. It's a symbol of catharsis and renewal. Psychologists and cultural experts note that in post-authoritarian societies, such expressions help process trauma and foster collective identity. Dance has always been a form of resistance in Venezuela, says Dr. Elena Ramirez, a cultural anthropologist at the Central University of Venezuela. Under Maduro, it was co-opted for propaganda. Now it's reclaimed as a tool for healing and hope. Videos often include messages of optimism, with dancers holding signs reading "Venezuela Libre," "Free Venezuela," or dedicating performances to those lost in the. The apologies are being delivered via personalized letters to affected former service members, offering regret for the unintended hardships caused by the mandate. "We recognize that the policy, while implemented with the best intentions for force protection, resulted in the loss of talented individuals and disrupted careers." Read a sample letter obtained by Juba Global News Network. The Navy is also exploring options for record corrections, including potential upgrades to discharge statuses and invitations to reapply for service. This follows a similar Army initiative in December 2025, where over 1,700 soldiers received apologies and offers for reinstatement. The reversal stems from a directive by President Trump shortly after his inauguration, prioritizing military morale and readiness over what he called coercive health policies. During his first term, Trump had criticized vaccine mandates as overreach, and his 2020 4 campaign promised to rectify injustices for affected troops. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth echoed this sentiment in a Pentagon briefing. These men and women served honorably, and it's time we make amends. The mandate divided our forces, at a time when unity was needed most. For many discharged sailors, the apology is bittersweet. Former Navy Petty Officer Sarah Jenkins, discharged in 2022 after seeking a religious exemption, told Juba Global, "It's a start, but it doesn't give back the years I lost, or the promotions I missed. I was on track for a 20-year career." Jenkins is among thousands who filed lawsuits against the mandate, with class action suits ongoing in federal courts seeking back pay and benefit restorations. Advocacy groups like the Military Religious Freedom Foundation have welcomed the apologies, but demand more tangible compensation, estimating the total cost to taxpayers could exceed $500 million if full reinstatements occur. The mandate's legacy extends beyond individual stories. Military recruitment has suffered since 2021, with the Navy missing targets by 20% in 2023 and 2024, partly attributed to eroded trust in leadership. A 2025 GAO report highlighted that the discharges contributed to skill shortages in critical areas, like cybersecurity and aviation maintenance. Critics argue the policy was politically motivated, with exemptions unevenly granted. High-ranking officers reportedly received more leniency than enlisted personnel. Supporters of the mandate, including former Biden officials, defend it as a public health necessity. "It saved lives and kept our forces operational during a pandemic," said a former Pentagon spokesperson. Data from the 500 shows vaccination rates in the military reached 96% by mid-2022, correlating with lower hospitalization rates compared to the civilian population. The apologies coincide with broader policy changes, including a review of all COVID-era discharges across branches. The Air Force and Marines are expected to follow suit in the coming months. For veterans like Jenkins, the move offers closure, but raises questions about accountability. Who apologizes to us for the stigma? For being labeled anti-vaxxers, when we just wanted our rights respected? As the Navy works to rebuild its ranks, this apology represents a pivotal moment in healing internal divisions. With global threats from China and Russia looming, restoring trust in the chain of command is paramount. Whether this gesture translates to meaningful reform remains to be seen, but for discharged troops, it's a long overdue recognition of their service and sacrifice.